The screams of a butchered human child echoed through the cosmos, unleashing the wrath of an ancient fleet upon the Galactic Council. Richard Gordon's rough, calloused hands gripped the dented steel cup, the burning liquor, barely masking the bile rising in his throat at the memory. His battle-worn eyes, once ablaze with righteous fury, now smoldered like dying embers in the dingy space station bar. A wiry, blue-scaled alien, all twitchy limbs and bulbous eyes, plopped down on the stool beside him, its pungent excitement slicing through the boozy haze. "You're Richard Gordon, right? The hero of the Human Council War?" It squeaked, voice shrill with youthful awe. "I'm Pollux of the Wadi. Please, you must tell me, how did your species bring the galaxy's mightiest empire to its knees?" Richard fixed the enthusiastic Wadi with a steely gaze, a mirthless chuckle rattling his scarred chest. He took a slow swig, the fiery liquid searing his throat, then slammed the cup down. "They signed their own death warrant the day they murdered an innocent child," he growled, words dripping with venom. "The Council, in their infinite stupidity, assassinated the daughter of a human diplomat, thinking they could cripple us with grief." His fist clenched, knuckles white against tanned skin. But all they did was awaken a slumbering beast. When humanity learned the truth behind her death, when we saw the proof of the Council's treachery, something snapped in our collective soul. Richard leaned forward, voice low and dangerous. "They believed they could break us, but instead they unleashed an unholy storm of vengeance, and that, my naive friend, was the gravest mistake those bastards ever made." He settled back, a haunted smile playing across his weathered face. "So you want to hear the tale of how humans brought the galaxy to heel? Well, listen close, because it all began with the blood of a child, and ended with the Council begging for mercy at humanity's feet." Richard took another long pull from his dented cup, the potent liquor burning a trail down to his gut. The Wadi leaned in closer, its eyes wide with rapt attention. "You see, kid, Earth had an ace up its sleeve," Richard said, his voice low and conspiratorial. "A secret fleet, hidden away in the far reaches of our solar system, ships from a war so ancient, most had forgotten they even existed." He leaned back, a sardonic grin splitting his weathered face. "But our leaders they remembered, and in our darkest hour they made the call to wake those sleeping giants from their slumber." Richard's eyes took on a distant look as he recalled the sight of those massive vessels, emerging from their cloaked hangars like avenging angels. "You should have seen them, Pollux. Warships the size of small moons, bristling with weapons that made the Council's tech look like children's toys, shields that could shrug off a supernova, and crewed by the meanest, toughest sons of bitches Earth had to offer." He chuckled darkly, shaking his head. The Council, in their arrogance, thought they were untouchable, that their armies and their fancy gadgets made them invincible. Poor bastards never saw us coming. Richard's grin turned predatory as he recounted those first glorious battles. "Our fleet tore through their defenses like they were made of tissue paper. We hit them fast and hard, using tactics they'd never encountered, strategies born in the fires of Earth's ancient wars, honed to deadly perfection over centuries of conflict." He slammed his fist on the bar, making the Wadi jump. "We showed them what true warfare looked like, what it meant to fight an enemy that had nothing left to lose, and with every ship we destroyed, every Council soldier we sent screaming into the void, we sent a message. Earth's fury would not be denied." The Wadi's eyes widened as Richard's story took a darker turn. The human's voice grew low and menacing as he recounted the Council's desperate attempts to halt Earth's relentless advance. "Those Wadi bastards thought they could break us," Richard growled, his grip tightening on his cup. "They sent their best operatives, their most ruthless killers, to sabotage our war effort back home." He shook his head, a mirthless chuckle escaping his lips. "They blew up our factories, poisoned our water, and gunned down our leaders in cold blood. They wanted to cripple our supply lines, to shatter our resolve." Richard leaned forward, his eyes blazing with a cold fury. "But they underestimated us. They didn't count on the depth of our rage, the strength of our unity in the face of their atrocities." He slammed his fist on the bar, making Pollux jump. We hunted those Wadi scum down like the animals they were. We used every trick in the book, from old-school tracking to the latest surveillance tech. We didn't rest until we had them in our sights. Richard's voice dropped to a whisper, his words dripping with venom. And when we found them holed up in some godforsaken mountain stronghold, we showed them what it meant to cross humanity. He closed his eyes, the memories of that brutal battle flashing through his mind. The crack of gunfire, the screams of the dying, the stench of blood and smoke. It was a hell of a fight, he said, his voice rough with emotion. We lost good men that day, brave soldiers who gave their lives to bring those Wadi bastards to justice. But in the end, we got what we came for. Richard opened his eyes, fixing Pollux with a piercing stare. We captured their leader, dragged him out of his hidey hole kicking and screaming. And we made him talk. We made him spill every last secret, every dirty little plan the council had up their sleeves. Richard's voice grew heavy as he recounted the war's final desperate gambit. The intel extracted from the captured Wadi leader had revealed the location of the Galactic Council's central command, a heavily fortified bunker deep beneath the surface of their capital world. We knew it was a trap, Richard said, his eyes distant. But we also knew we had no choice. The council had to be stopped, no matter the cost. He described the strike team that assembled for the fateful mission, a small elite unit of humanity's deadliest warriors, led by Richard's closest friend and trusted second-in-command, Captain James Hawkins. Hawkins was the best of us, Richard said, his voice thick with emotion. Fearless, loyal, and one hell of a soldier. If anyone could pull off this insane plan, it was him. The team infiltrated the council's stronghold under the cover of darkness, slipping past layer after layer of defenses, with a lethal combination of skill and high-tech gadgetry. But as they closed in on the central command chamber, all hell broke loose. They were waiting for us, Richard said grimly. The whole damn place was rigged to blow. Council guards came at us from every direction, but we fought like demons. Hawkins led the charge, cutting through their ranks like a force of nature. Inch by bloody inch, the human warriors battled their way to the heart of the bunker. The council leaders cowered behind a massive blast door, screaming for their guards to hold the line, but Hawkins and his team were relentless. We breached the door with shaped charges, Richard recounted, his fist clenching at the memory. Stormed in, guns blazing, but that's when we saw it, the countdown. The council, in a final act of desperation, had armed a fail-safe device to detonate the entire complex. They were willing to sacrifice themselves and their own seat of power to take out the human strike force. Hawkins, Richard's voice cracked. He knew what had to be done. He ordered us to fall back, to get the hell out while we still could. Said he'd buy us the time we needed. As Richard and the surviving members of the team fought their way back to the surface, Hawkins stood alone against the council's last line of defense. With seconds to spare, he triggered the explosives they'd planted on their way in, collapsing the tunnels and sealing the council in with their own doomsday device. The ground shook with the force of the blast, a shockwave that seemed to ripple across the entire planet. Richard and his battered team emerged from the rubble, their hearts heavy with the knowledge of what their victory had cost. In the days that followed, as news of the Council's demise spread, the Galactic Alliance crumbled. Without their leaders, without their central authority, the remaining factions quickly fell into disarray. One by one, they surrendered to the might of Earth's ancient fleet. But for Richard, for all the surviving veterans of that terrible war, the triumph was ashes in their mouths. They had avenged the fallen child, had broken the Council's iron grip on the galaxy, but the price had been too high. "We lost so much," Richard said, his eyes glistening in the dim light of the bar. "Hawkins and so many others, brave men and women who gave everything to see justice done. And now, with the fighting over, I can't help but wonder." He trailed off, his gaze unfocused. Was it worth it? The vengeance, the blood spilled on both sides? I honestly don't know anymore. Richard turned to Pollux, his expression hardening. "But mark my words, kid. The galaxy will never forget what happened here. They'll never forget the wrath of Earth, the fury of a species pushed too far, and if anyone is ever foolish enough to cross us again—" He left the thought unfinished, the implication hanging heavy in the air. Pollux swallowed hard, his eyes wide with a mix of awe and fear. Richard signalled for another drink, the ghosts of fallen comrades lingering in his haunted gaze. The war was over, but for the battle-scarred veteran, the memories would never fade. The cost of victory, the price of vengeance, would stay with him until his dying day. Richard's haunted eyes flickered with pain as he recounted the war's grim aftermath. With the council gone, the galaxy was thrown into chaos. Power-hungry factions, both human and alien, clawed at each other to fill the void. Some wanted peace, but others craved conquest. His voice grew harsh as he spoke of a new threat that rose from the ashes. Xarlox, a ruthless warlord who had been high up in the council, rallied their remaining forces. The bastard was hell-bent on finishing what they started, driven by a deep hatred for humanity. Richard's fist clenched as he described the brutal attacks on human colonies. Xarlox's forces slaughtered civilians without mercy, leaving nothing but charred ruins in their wake. We thought we had won, but the war was far from over. Humanity, still reeling from the losses of the previous conflict, was once again fighting for survival. Richard, now a battle-hardened veteran, took command of Earth's defenses, but Xarlox proved to be a formidable foe, his forces growing stronger with each passing day. In a desperate gamble, I led a small team to infiltrate Xarlox's stronghold and take him out once and for all, Richard said, his voice strained. But the bastard was one step ahead. He set a trap, and we walked right into it. Richard's team was captured, and he was forced to watch as Xarlox executed them one by one. I was the only one left, he whispered, his eyes distant. Xarlox wanted me to suffer, to live with the knowledge that I had failed, that humanity was doomed. But even in his darkest hour, Richard refused to give up. With a burst of strength, he broke free of his bonds and lunged at Xarlox, engaging him in a brutal hand-to-hand battle. They fought with a savage intensity, trading blows that would have felled lesser men. In the end, Richard emerged victorious, but at a terrible cost. He had sustained mortal wounds, his lifeblood seeping onto the cold metal floor. As he lay dying, he watched Xarlox's stronghold burn around him, the flames casting an eerie glow on his battered face. I don't know what happened after that, Richard said, his voice growing weaker with each word. I don't know if humanity survived, or if Xarlox's forces were truly defeated. All I know is that I gave everything I had, right up until the end. With those final words, Richard slumped forward, his story finished. Pollux, stunned by the tale, realized that the old warrior had passed away, taking the true ending of the story with him. The young Wadi was left to wonder about the fate of humanity and the galaxy, and to ponder the sacrifices that had been made in the name of vengeance and survival. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.